Hello?
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
So, change my mind. Well, okay. I see astrology in a way that's different. As an astrologer myself, becoming full-time a year ago, using astronomy, because you cannot be an astrologer without knowing the movement of the astrophysics, right? So I got to understand and say, all right, yeah, I could see why people could see it as a scam, but is it really a scam? If you think about how the prediction of weather, the predictability of how we do seasons and all that using astrodynamics, there is a way to understand that the gases of above create the matter of below, and then the matter of events through the predictability of the planets, because when you bring science to it, how the periodic table are basically the elements of alchemy through the planets, right? That Jupiter is tin, that Saturn is lead, and this composition we have within us, right? So when we start to understand that there's more to astrology than the predictions, you can understand the science behind it and understand that there is much more to it that we can bring to the table. For example, we right now at this moment have an alignment in the sky from the 1850s, right? Because of Neptune, Uranus, the placements of where they are, because they make certain movements, right? Uranus takes 84 years, Neptune takes 165, Saturn takes 29, the solar system, right? So when we start to understand that when they make a certain alignment, the history is repetitive itself. Because during the 1850s, Edgar Allan Poe wrote a book about election fraud. That book led to the speculation of and look it up, please. It's called Cooping, Edgar Allan Poe.
It's not that. How does that correlate to astrology?
Let me get to you right now. Because all this evidence about the election fraud that goes down to the bleeding cancer that the Democrat and Republican Party were won the year after led to the financial crisis. And then on September 1st of 1859, there was a Carrington event, a solar event that caused a 10-day blackout. This is all in the history books. How it correlates with astrology is because the event, election fraud, Republican Democrat Party, financial crisis, solar flares, and these are all the alignments that are in the sky during
daily, though.
I understand, but the thing is that we're past the marker, right? We're in the 11th year, right? We're supposed to have cycles. So the cycles exactly at the same time of the pattern of the 1850s are now. Just because if you look into the alignments of how accurate we can predict the weather, how do we do that? How do we have predictability? There's predictability of matter to be known through the gases of above, and this is actually a science to know. That you can even go as deep down.
Yeah, sure. Predicting weather we can do if it's like the day after, but the further.
But there's celestial mechanics, right? Like the GPS and the satellite. Like the satellites give that GPS and knowledge.
But what's the GPS have anything to do
that
with
it all uses celestial mechanics. And what I'm trying to tell you is that by looking into the events of the predictability that I just gave you, because this is all with the alignments of the planets in the sky, the ephemeris, that give you what I gave you. We've heard within the past 5 years about election fraud, financial crisis, the Republican and Democrat Party, and the solar flares acting up. And this goes back to the alignments of the 1850s. And that's just one out of the 100 examples that I have. So when we start to understand the celestial mechanics, it brings a different way.
Yeah, but people have been at war for thousands of years.
Yes, they have. But when you bring the predictability, for example, Saturn in Aquarius, it was in 2000. Wait, hold on. In 2021, when Saturn was in Aquarius,
Astro, you have to let me talk too, please. However, predicting that humans will go into war is animal behaviors. It's kind of predictable.
But I'm not predicting it. It's like saying the forecast is going to rain. You choose to bring the umbrella or not. You have choice in astrology. There's free will. There's free will. It's predictability of the environment, and you choose how you want to act upon it. That's how I see it. It's an innovation. I don't have a lot of astrologer friends. Very few, actually, because I connect with one that I'm going to start working for in a studio called the Leo King. And these are the astrologers that are bringing the innovation of the science and the astronomy that has to go with astrology hand in hand. That has been taken out of the context.
I use it like just a branching, though. Where
astrology is more of an understanding of how we can connect to what they call God. The spectrum of light that we don't see but feel. A connection, well, through a dividing of understanding the language. For example, what sign are you?
Guess.
Oh, see, I hate that because I'm not a psychic. That's a Scorpios. Scorpios, Pisces, and Cancers are the psychics. I'm good at math and I'm good at as a Sagittarius projecting. But I can tell you, I know how to understand a person through its mechanisms. Just give me your sign, really. I'll help you out, like 2 seconds.
Then according to what mind mechanisms, then what sign am I?
Because the thing about it is that I see as a chemical composition of how we react. We're basically chemical compositions of what they call Gemini. But Gemini is actually in the periodic table considered to be 222, which I have it, all the lanthanides here. If you know the periodic table, or for example, you have Gemini would be praseodymium, the third lanthanide, right? Number 60. And then when you look into that, what does that mean? That means a twin, right? So if you think about it like a chemical composition of what our body is made of during the time of birth, the chemical composition of all the planets that have us, and then you understand that is basically a fancy name that was given to it, and not about predictability of who you are, because your sun is generally just part of your composition. You have the moon and other chemicals, which I
We
call
all
them.
have the same sun, though.
But you have different no, where it's positioned. Think of angles of friction. There are angles that we all have a different chemistry composition.
And
It's
why
not
is the
all the
sun
same,
the
so we
factor? It's the
react.
Earth, but why is the sun the factor? Wouldn't it be the Earth, since it's the Earth moving?
But we have the earth also within our lanthanides. Do you know what the lanthanides are? The rare earth metals, right? So the rare earth metals that are in the periodic table in the bottom rows, those are the connection of the transition metals that allow the gases of above to create the matter below. And so therefore we can understand in IC astrology like us being chemicals that react, and we react to environments, because that's why everybody's going with psychosis right now. There's a shift that's happening
But
right
that's
now.
because we're made of biological matter, though. Because we're
Biological matter that comes from chemistry compounds.
Yes, but how
So,
does this tie to astrology?
It's tied to astrology because it gives you an understanding of knowing what this is, what it means that Saturn is lead. Did you know that? Yeah, go back. That's what they used to use it, because chemical of alchemy, the alchemist is a chemist. When you know alchemy, you understand the equations of alchemy through the symbols. It connects to the chemistry, and you get to understand that there's more to know than what's out there. It's not about denying anything. I'm not here to disprove shit because I think it's so stupid. I think we should be connecting now. I think it's a change of what, when they kind of call the age of Aquarius, it's just a shift that we're having after 2,160 years, and it happens for the 26,000 year wobble that we have. So it's not about predicting what's going to happen to you or who you are. It's more of understanding the chemistry compound of who you are and knowing your environment, and then you know your reaction. That's all.
But isn't astrology all about predictions? Like the planets is in this.
That's what they want to
position.
say. Well, it has an effect. Like I said, it's an environment. So you know, as a chemical that you're made out of, you know, let's say, for example, you have the chemical composition of Taurus. You would know how to work within your environment. Or if you're an Aquarius, you have to be more relatable to your environment, because Aquariuses come out to be cold. Why?
But
Because
that's
the composition
adaptation, though. That's adaptation.
it's
evolution.
because we have to learn how to be adaptive.
Yes, but
What's
that's
your
not-
sun
that's not-
sign? You're not going to tell me your sun sign. You see, I told you Eeyore and everybody. She wasn't going to tell me. I get
don't know
that. That's
what that
fine.
means. I don't know what that means.
What day were you born?
Guess.
See, I told you she's going to tell me this. Oh, Maria. But look,
Well,
like,
you
honestly, like, I'm not here to like argue. Like, I think you're pretty awesome in what you do. You know, coming up here doing debates and everything. And I'm just bringing like an insight, right? Of proving or disproving. Well, I left my job. I was doing, you know, I graduated from film school and I was doing, you know, marketing, advertising, and film, right? And I left to be an astrologer a year ago, like to do this. And what I can say from my heart is that it's been guiding me the right way, because it's not about the prediction of what's going to happen. It's about the prediction of the environment, and you have the capability with free will to choose whether you bring a raincoat if it rains that day or not. That's how I see it. And a lot of astrologers don't correlate with me. There's a few. And there's one that I'm going to send you a link to that I would like you to see it. It's pretty awesome, the Leo King, right? But the thing is that I believe that this is how we're changing, right? The way that we are thinking, expanding, innovation of what astrology is. It was a facade. It was made to look as a big facade of pseudoscience. And I get it. That's why I'm against all of them. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But I think that there's more of within us that has a composition of our making through these zodiac signs.
But I can't see how astrology fit into our adaptive ability. That's simply just about survival rates. The better you adapt, the better the survival
It's
rate.
more of a guidance, a navigation tool maybe. More like a blueprint from the sky that you can understand that there are placements, right, of that chemistry set that you are made out of during the time of birth. Because it's all different. Every second it changes. The wheel moves. So therefore, the chemical composition of you is going to react different to every environment like everybody else. That's how I see it, for example, right? But I guess the way that it was put out for a long time, it's very hard for people to understand. I can understand that.
It's just I've heard that if Venus is in a certain position, that means that I don't have to buy a phone, for example, because it's telling me not to.
What?
Because it's gonna
No.
because it means that like my finances in the coming future is gonna be bad because of Venus.
No. Okay, look, one day I would like you to come on my podcast, like I have here, so you can see what I do, because that's so wrong. And that's how they lie to people. That's how astrologers lie, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They go on on the internet and they read something and they become astrologers, you know, like it's been 10 years of what I've been learning in the making, and I finally took the guts